r/TooAfraidToAsk. Marianne Berry Inside 291 says, how can I get my GF to understand that once a week isn't enough? Basically, I have a pretty great relationship with a pretty cool girl, but she just does not get horny at it, and she prefers to wait for the right moment, which is very sweet, but I have a high sex drive compared to her, so it's kinda rough on me. We've been together for 2 years going on 3, but lately it's been driving me insane. We've talked about it, but we never really agree to more sex, just that she'll make her effort. I hope I don't sound like a thing, but I really am sexually frustrated, and it's been hard. Balubert says, you don't. You have mismatched libidos and it's not going to change. You either accept that or leave. Flimsy Taylor 6220 says, it took me way too long to understand this. Like a whole marriage and everything. Thick Comedian 8545 says, wait. If I'm the girl in this scenario, but switch, do you still think it's true? Or is there some special secret that all dudes know that you can help me out with? It's been 10 years, my guy. Goat 1707 says, I understand your frustration, but it's just tough luck, I'm afraid. You have different sex drives, and you can't change that. Zingarden East says, depending on age it could change. Stress factors too. Gandalf the Beblade says, enjoy your hand when she's not in the mood, get a toy, or leave. I saw you mentioned she likes physical touch and sensual attention. As a woman, she probably really wants that without your motive being sex every single time. That can be such a turn off and cause anxiety and resentment around sex. If you're only massaging her or touching her with the goal to eventually bang, that's not a libido issue, that's a partner issue. Immediate Pool 4391 says, I was in a relationship where every touch was like sex. And it pissed me off pretty fast. Touch to it to be loving and supporting is nice too. Samajo says, I'm so relieved to hear anyone else say this. I felt like I was crazy or ungrateful. Redditosa 12346 says, it's been hard. Fishmaster 92 says, Beavis and Butthead have entered the chat. Underweg Gnome 51 says, look at this guy, I'm so weak and complaining. r/TooAfraidToAsk. Battle for the says, how do birds and bees get used to explain sex in school? I'm not American or English, so I never heard it in actual use. I only hear the phrase the birds and the bees in movies and stuff. Birds and bees do not have sex. How are those two related with that subject? I actually cannot think of a single way that those two animals are related, except that birds eat bees sometimes. Mediocre says, bees pollinating flowers is used to explain insemination/fertilization. Bird egg laying is used to explain ovulation. They are used as examples that are easily seen/observed in nature that would be known to the person learning about sex. Ian 1508 says, I don't know that I've ever heard of it actually being explained this way. Like, I know the phrase the birds and the bees, and I know what it means, but it's not like they teach this in school. It's like a euphemism or an idiom. Learning about the birds and the bees does mean learning about sex, but nobody who's teaching somebody about sex is literally talking about birds and bees. Rossetti says, birds, bees, Battlestar Galactica. Honest Bridge 7278 says, it's just a euphemism to say the sex talk without saying the sex talk. It's considered impolite to use the word sex casually. Raptor 15 says, birds and bees do have sex. Ascardavine says, just another euphemism for sex that fails to take the entire topic seriously, which is why reproductive knowledge and the user is soft when it comes to this topic. Just the phrase alone suggests it's too taboo to talk about. Can't we just talk about it with our children? I did and it wasn't that hard. Kyle F. or Short says, it's not really used in school, it's used in American homes. Star Craver says, birds do it, bees do it. Even educated fleas do it. Square Illustrator 909 says, the teacher usually starts with, so you know how we have been learning about pollination in biology class? And then explains how a bee flies from flower to spread the pollen. Then they move into, do you know how a chicken lays eggs? And explains that eggs can be fertilized by a male chicken. Then they seg into, does anyone know how humans do it? And that's the way to gradually introduce the topic, using examples from everyday life and biology that kids will be familiar with. r/TooAfraidToAsk. Abject Working 6488 says, any tips to boost sex drive? I 30 male, have been in a relationship with my partner for about 2 years. I adore her and find her so attractive, but over the past year maybe my sex drive is just non-existent. I typically don't even really masturbate that much. I'm worried it's going to affect her and how she feels I feel about her. I spent the majority of my 20s single, so sex was infrequent, and I think maybe my body's just used to that cycle, but I want to be able to do more for her. Any advice? Contribution or 1317 says, get your testosterone checked. It helped me in so many ways, not just the bedroom. Thick Skinhead Alive says, testosterone levels are important. If they are low it kills your sex drive. Also if you are on any antidepressants they are murder on a sex drive. I was depressed years ago, and my doctor gave me a few different ones. They made me numb. I was neither happy or sad or angry. I sat and watched porn, and could not get hard. Complete buzzkill. One Marzipan 9652 says, I'm 22 male, and I'm trying to do the same. What helped me the most was green tea. Rude Man Who Shushes says, what kind of physical shape are you in? Mystic Mellow 24 says, consider talking openly with your partner about your concerns and exploring professional help. Sometimes underlying issues can be addressed with the right support. Cremegeral 666 says, if you're concerned over keeping her happy and keeping her convinced that you're interested you can go after it to please her without having to have the interest of yourself finishing. There are hands and tongues and tools. Have you ever woken up and thought, God, I'd really like for her to have a good day? And just throw everything you've got at it. Make her tea or coffee in the morning, pick up the food that she likes without having to ask, do chores you know she's regularly saddled with and doesn't particularly enjoy. Set her up for an easy evening, and you can take that all the way. I bet you most women here have done a day for their partner, including a happy ending for that partner without any concern to their own satisfaction. And being able to provide that for someone you care about is a satisfaction on its own. Whether or not you have a sex drive does not have to dictate how attracted you seem to her. If you take pleasure in giving her pleasure, obviously, you want her. That will be enough. r/TooAfraidToAsk. Abusager says, what's the most messed up kink you have heard of? Scarlet's Room says, bone crushing. Thigreed Gazoo says, amputation. Funk Dunker says, the family thing actually disgusts me, legit saw foster dad and that for me crosses a line. Ghost Willows says, crushing live animals by stepping on them. That or maggots. Inflatable Lazarus says, bee/wasp stings to the sensitive bits, thing/glands, vulva/clit. Hobberspindle says, why did I click this post on this, the day of my daughter's wedding? Wiggy49 says, scat is already bad, I don't wanna know anything past that. Namojao Enthorus Jojo says, The whole feeder fetish thing. You're making your partner increasingly struggle to breathe and walk, and ultimately render them immobile until they eat themselves to death. Algreditor00 says, I read it in a post, a girl made her dog eat her out. Doppelcook15 says, I just saw someone posting about how they're obsessed with big boobs. What? A sicko. Reigdrops17 says, of a position. I don't know how anyone even discovers it, but the fact that there's a whole community out there that's into it truly disturbs me. Minglerlinks says, I remember someone asked on Reddit if they should leave their boyfriend when she learned that he secretly had a fetish of, frick, in a decapitated girl's head, and I believe her throat hole as well. The throat hole a part of the body, not the head. LuckyAd9137 says, something wet floor signs. Zin0097 says, animals and objects, EU. Banana Chip Shock says, peeing in your partner's mouth. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.